All right, good evening. Today is July 24th, 2019, and this is the public hearing of the Evanston Plan Commission. The zoning ordinance directs this body to hear applications for map amendments, text amendments, plan developments, as well as to make recommendations regarding the city's long-term plans. This commission will make a recommendation which will then be sent to City Council. Ms. Jones, will you please call roll?
Commissioner Draper, Commissioner Dubin, Commissioner Goddard,
Here.
Commissioner Halleck, Commissioner Pagotzi, Commissioner Sloss, Commissioner Lewis, and Acting Chair Isaac.
Here. Hearing we have a quorum, we'll move forward with today's festivities. Those members of the public that are here, please turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate for the meeting. And if any members of the public would like to speak, we have a sign-in sheet. The first order of business today is the meeting minutes from the Wednesday, July 10th, 2019 meeting. Do I have any corrections or modifications from the commission? Hearing none, do I have a... Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
It's just a typo.
Just let us know. Let's...
Okay, under the text amendment E on page 2, Mr. Bennett provided an overview instead of an overview. That?
Okay. With that one correction, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 10th, 2019?
So moved.
Goddard? Do I have a second? Sloss? All in favor? Aye. All against? All right, the ayes have it. Let's see. So the format and procedures for today's public hearing is as follows. The Plan Commission the public hearing we're having today is to gather facts and information regarding petition, provide that information with a motion to recommend approval with refinements, or denial to the City Council, where final action will occur. The summary of our procedures for tonight's hearing will be the city staff will present their report regarding the petition, after which the Plan Commission may ask questions of the staff. The petitioner will then present testimony regarding their petition, after which the Plan Commission may question the petitioner and any of the petitioner's witnesses. Next, members of the public can ask questions of the petitioner. When speaking at the microphone, they should give their name and address and whether they have been sworn in to testify. The petitioner will then have the opportunity to answer any questions from the public. Members of the public can then give sworn testimony. When speaking at the microphone, they should give their names, address, and whether they've been sworn in. The petitioner will then have the opportunity to cross-examine any member of the public after that provided that testimony. After the public has completed its testimony, public testimony for the case will be closed. However, any member of the Plan Commission and city staff may question any member of the public who has spoken regarding their testimony. After that, we'll give the petitioner a chance to provide a summary or closing argument, and the same opportunity will be given to staff, and then we'll move on to deliberation. At which point a motion will be made to either recommend approval with refinements, or denial. Do we have anyone from the public that plans on speaking tonight, including petitioners? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, state in the affirmative, I do. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, the case number 19 PLND 0039 major adjustment to a planned development. Ms. Jones or Mr. Mangum will be presenting.
Good evening, everyone. Megan Jones, Neighborhood and Land Use Planner.
I'm sorry, I need to stop you for 1 second. There's one matter that I need to raise before we move forward. Give me 1 second. This case was originally heard on March 9th and March 9th and April 6th of 2016. I was a member of the Plan Commission at that time. It's my understanding that Centrum Partners is a joint venture partner with the petitioner. At the time, my law firm had a matter that it was representing Centrum Partners on. While we did not believe there was a conflict, out of an abundance of caution, I recused myself from those hearings. Since that time, we no longer represent Central Partners in any forum, and as such, after speaking with city staff, that abundance of caution is no longer necessary, and so I have decided not to recuse myself from today's hearing. Please. Please identify yourself for the...
Bernard Citron of the law firm of Thompson Cover. In furtherance of Chairman Isaac's statement, Centrum is no longer a joint venture partner in this matter either. So
That
there's
closes the door on that.
Yeah, there's absolutely no even appearance of conflict in any form, way, shape, or size.
Great, thank you for
Thank you.
providing that information. Ms. Jones, please.
Right. All right. So good evening again, everyone. I'm going to give a brief overview of the project up to this point. The original development was approved in 2016. There was a minor adjustment that was approved by our Design and Project Review Committee in 2017. The building has not yet been constructed. The originally approved development had a total of 163 units. This included 102 dwelling units, which are units that include kitchens, and these were the independent and assisted living units. There were 30 memory care units and 31 assisted living with cognitive impairment units that made up that 163. The original FAR was 4.35. The total parking spaces provided were 67, and the building height was 10 stories, or a zoning height of 105 feet. This development is currently zoned D4, which is the downtown district. And if you will recall, levels that are within a structure that are at least 75% dedicated to parking are not included in the calculation of the building height. This evening, there is a major adjustment to the plan development that is being requested. This adjustment would reduce the building height to 9 stories, or a zoning height of 104 feet and 10 inches, increase the FAR slightly to 4.47, reduce the number of dwelling units to 43 for a total of 161 units. This, I will note, actually removes the originally approved site development allowance for the number of units. This adjustment also would increase the side yard setback from 4 feet to 5 feet, and it would increase the parking spaces provided to 70. This includes 68 compliant parking spaces and 2 compact parking spaces. All other conditions that were listed in the original ordinance, which is 47016, will be unchanged. In the staff report, I mentioned the addition of an additional memory care unit that would bring that up from 33 to 34 memory care units. This displays where that change is occurring. The drawing on the left is what was originally submitted as part of this adjustment. The one on the right, the red circle, shows exactly where that change is taking place. They're essentially removing what I believe is the beauty salon and putting an additional unit in its place. This chart gives an overall summary of the requested changes that have occurred since the plan development was approved. You see that largely the zoning height has stayed pretty much the same. With the FAR, it's decreased in 2017, it's now increased a bit. The number of parking spaces has increased. The setback on the south side, which is considered the side, has increased to 5 feet. And of course, the number of units has decreased by 2 total, but the number of units that we consider to be dwelling units has increased or decreased significantly from 102 to 43. So the proposed development or adjustment to the development must maintain the original plan development satisfaction of the following standards, which are addressed within the report, and we will go over in more detail during deliberation. Section 63510, standards for special uses. Section 6369, standards for plan developments. And Section 611110, standards and guidelines for plan developments in the D4 Downtown Transition District. So we've got the listing of standards after this, and I can save that until we're ready for deliberation.
Does that conclude staff's presentation?
That concludes the presentation.
Does the commission have any questions for staff at this time? No? Okay, we can move to the petitioner's presentation.
Thank you. Our presentation will be very brief, and then we'd be here to answer any questions. Michael McLean, one of the principals in the development entity, will briefly address why we're making these changes, which we think is appropriate to let the Plan Commission know the reason for these changes. Matthew Starman, our architect, is here to answer any questions. I think staff has really covered what we're doing here. We hope that the Plan Commission sees that these are very minor changes to the overall development based on what was approved before. So, Michael, maybe you can just address why we're making it.
Good evening. Michael McLean with Condor Partners, the developer of the project. Thank you all for coming tonight. I know this was a special hearing, so I do appreciate you fitting us in. So a number of reasons we're making the changes. I mean, the primary change here that in our minds, I know there are legal and zoning, changes that we're listing, but the primary change in our minds was we had the 4th floor programmed as a assisted living with cognitive impairment floor, which was essentially a memory care light. That gave us over 60 units of a memory care type product. Since we originally planned that, there's been much more competition built in memory care, as well as the memory care world and coverage and things like that has gotten a bit more difficult particularly in Illinois. So we reduced that floor and brought it back to assisted living without the cognitive impairment. That cognitive impairment can be offered on a 1-by-1 in residence service. So we felt like it was a better product and more flexible in the overall longevity of the project. The other thing that we did was we took the 2nd floor parking garage, which made the building a story taller, and we put it on the ground. That made for a more efficient building. It's more expensive to build, actually, but it did reduce the overall height of the building. Even though the zoning height is pretty much the same, the overall height is a story lower. So that also went towards some of the neighbors who had expressed concern over the height, and we reduced the height by a story. We also brought on, back in 2016, for those of you who were here, it was strongly recommended that we bring on a management partner prior to going to City Council. We did that. Now, a number of years later, that relationship did not work out. In fact, that company in general is not currently working out. We've replaced them with a much more sophisticated and experienced management company, who is our partner, or a new partner in the project, which we're very excited about. He's got a long pedigree in senior housing in Chicago. In fact, he was a senior VP at Senior Lifestyles for most of his career, and now he's got a new brand that fits this type of product very well. So those are the 3 kind of primary drivers of what these changes are. the one unit, adding back in between Dapper and here and the memory care was actually just, we kind of dropped the ball in a miscommunication on programming between us and the, and the manager. Is anything else? Oh, the name of the new manager is Solera Senior Living. They're based in Colorado now, but again, he has extensive experience here in Chicago. The previous partner had no experience in Chicago at all. They were up and coming group that had good ideas, but weren't able to execute ultimately.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the commission have any questions for the petitioner?
Just one question. It's been a few years since the first time you were here. What's your schedule for construction now? I mean, do you have financing?
We do have financing. AEW is a big real estate investment fund out of Boston. They are committed to be our LP capital, our limited partner capital. And we do have a bank that we have a term sheet with, and we're negotiating final loan docs. We're hoping to break ground as soon as we get a foundation permit. We've been into the MWRD for about 9 months now. And the foundation permit's been reviewed by the city of Evanston, but they can't do anything with it until we're through MWRD. So we've got a GMP, AECOM Hunt, one of the largest construction companies in the country, is our general contractor. We're really geared up to go. But we had to go through this process, which we hadn't realized that we had to go through this process when we were making these kinds of changes. We thought they were going to be minor because they were still within the intent of the original, but we have to go through this, and should all line up for September, groundbreaking.
Also, I'm just curious for personal reasons, who's the senior lifestyle guy that is managing?
Adam Kaplan is the principal of Solera.
Any other questions from staff? Got it.
I have a question. I have two questions. Can you give us some guarantees or some assurances that granting this adjustment will indeed result in a development?
Yes. We are funded. I mean, we have
Is that the big hang-up before, funding?
the big hangup was that our partner, who was the management company, was also a 50-50% partner with us. This is a public forum, so I won't go into full details, but they were, for over a year, they were not able to perform their role in this project, and it severely hampered our ability to move forward.
Okay. And second of all, there's another development going up like a block away from you. The neighbors are a little concerned that this is going to be major chaos for them. Is there some guarantee? Can you work with the other? And
So we have a close relationship with Mount Zion Church, and we've been in constant contact with the church over the process and the construction plan, the logistics plan, which has gone through city staff now and has been approved. In that process, we've also been in communication with both the developer and the contractor of the Trammell Crow project. The way that the properties are staged now, they're going to be topping off fairly soon as we're getting in the ground. So the chaos that's happening on their site now should be being reduced, while our site starts to cause a little bit more. We're very cognizant. They're so close to the road, and they're so tight. We're a little bit further removed from neighboring properties. It's really just the church and the railroad that we're adjacent to. But we have a logistics plan. We will be doing a community meeting before we break ground to announce the schedule, the contact information, the superintendent, all of those things to prepare the neighbors for working with us through the process.
And you'd say you have an arrangement now with Mount Zion, because that was
Yes.
a bit of a sticky wicket before?
Yes, the site plan has been planned. We have a letter agreement in place to improve their property. We're actually spending a tremendous amount of money
I saw that. Mhm.
on improving their property, which in the best interest of the city, I think, actually, to do an improvement and turn what's a forgotten alleyway into an actual road and it help improve their situation that they have difficulty with in their parking lots. Handicap ADA accessibility is really challenged there. We're raising some grades. We're connecting the two parking lots we're actually paving one, which isn't paved, and we're connecting it to the higher one so that there's a better flow of traffic and their accessible bus can park properly and have designated spaces and things like that.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah. They've been really good to work with. It took a while to get to know each other, but
Yeah.
they've been good. They're good people, and they were good to work with.
So I have a few questions. With the change in the parking and moving it underground, are there any other changes to or does that change any of the flow of cars coming in and out of the project from what was originally?
Not as it relates to Ridge.
Okay.
So all the traffic still goes up Oak, turns around on site and goes back down Oak. Ridge, the access to Ridge was the primary concern with staff and the different councils because of the traffic patterns on Ridge. That portion has stayed the same. It's still basically a rollover curb. It's a different pattern. There's signs that do not enter. Because of emergency services, we explored bollards, but emergency services doesn't want bollards there. All right. On the main entrance, it's now it's very similar still. There's a ground floor that has its own entrance for visitors and staff and shorter term parking. That's adjacent to the lobby, but there's instead of a ramp going up to the second floor, there's a ramp that goes down to the basement floor. Okay. So it's very similar, just slightly maneuvered a little bit.
So I noted that in the April 6th meeting, from the initial meeting to the second meeting, you had made some changes to the drop-off area based on public concern. And my question is, are those changes still reflected in what you're planning on building?
To the best of my knowledge, we haven't changed the drop-off scenario. In fact, we've made it a little safer. The loading docks used to be adjacent to the drop-off area. We've now moved them down to the easternmost corner, where they're actually down a ramp and into the basement. So there was a pedestrian concern if these trucks are backing in and out and people are kind of loading in and out. Is that a problem? Those have shifted to a more out of the way location, if that's what you're referring to.
Okay.
No.
And then as far as the unit mix, so the numbers that we saw the number of what are considered dwelling units is now, I believe, 43. And the assisted living is what has increased, but it's the assisted living without cognitive impairment, right? So there was two in the original application. Yeah,
it's two technicalities, right? Our programming changes. We're not going to do the dedicated floor for assisted living with cognitive impairment. So that just spread the units out around the building to get back the unit count, because the cognitive impairment units are smaller, right? So that's why we leaked a little bit of FAR. The kitchens, we had originally planned all of our units with except for the memory care, with kitchens, right? Which meant ranges, stoves. In the we were always primarily going to be assisted living with a smaller piece of independent. The independent has basically stayed the same. I think we grew by a few units there. But we removed the stoves from the assisted living units because they weren't necessary from market's perspective, the operator's perspective. A different opinion from this operator. In fact, actually, the other operator eventually agreed that the stove itself was unnecessary in the assisted living because 3 to 4 meals a day are provided by the building. So legally, it changed the unit count, but the units are almost identical to what they always were, right? How they lay out, you know, how many bedrooms and, you know, mixes, and there are a few more 2 bedrooms now, a few less studios. They got a market condition that we've noticed over the last few years, but that was really the primary change.
How do these changes affect, if at all, the expected number of staff in the building?
I actually think the number of staff went down slightly because the cognitive impairment floors require much more staff per person than a regular assisted living floor.
Okay.
And we did the calculation with the staff about how many employees, and we submitted the number of employees and how many parking spaces per employee, and, you know.
Yeah, for the purposes of that, the number of employees that they kept on their application has stayed the same, regardless of them saying that they'll have a reduced number.
Got it. I see a light on. Is that Commissioner Sloss?
In terms of the memory care, so you've basically gone from one floor of memory care and 1 floor of memory care light to 1 floor of memory care. So will residents of that floor will have access only to that floor?
Yeah, by nature, memory care has to be a locked-in environment. And there are different technologies we can use to do that, wristbands and key codes and things like that. So the memory care floor is a self-contained floor. It has its own dining area, what we call a mom's kitchen, which is kind of the heart of the community, where people can sit at the counter and help cook and bake and things like that. There's a art and activity room. There is still a beauty salon. We just fit it in somewhere else instead of taking away a unit. There's an activities director that's full-time on the floor, and then there's staff to help with the daily living activities.
So I was curious primarily about the outdoor access from the memory care. So it looks like there's a roof terrace
Yes.
with access for the memory care. Is there any change in the size or quality of that space for the memory care with the change to the design?
I actually think it opened up a little bit from under roof. I mean, there's a little bit of a change of the design, but it's a pretty good amount of space for the 30 or so residents that will be there. And that's program time. So my understanding is that's not just open and necessarily free to wander all the time, that people schedule to go out there for an hour or so. And the whole environment is very programmed and very specific about therapy and about working with the cognitive impairment and, you know, and programming that.
And and in terms of the outdoor spaces, does the design include natural elements, or is it primarily hardscape on the?
No, there'll be planters on all the natural. We have actually a number of different outdoor elements on this project. We have 2 pocket parks on the ground. We have the deck at the memory care unit, which will have planters and seats, maybe even a little garden, like garden boxes. Then we have on the second floor, which is not off limits to memory care, a very large terrace with an outdoor kitchen and dining area, as well as some fire pits and other recreation. With help, memory care users can come down and will come down. It's adjacent to the main dining room, so for larger events and special times and things like that, with help, that they will be given access to that as well. And then there's a rooftop patio as well, primarily for the independent living.
Question. I just had a question about the site plan, and I noticed a couple things. I noticed that the original design, as he approached on Oak, I believe there was a canopy that kind of gave you some hint that there was some sort of entry. Now that the new design, it's gone, and we're kind of on access with the parking ramp and the loading dock, which is, I know it's a tough site, it's tough to access, but the other part, I'm confused. Is there, if I go down Oak and turn left in front of the building on the south elevation, can I continue driving and access Green Bay Road? Or Ridge, sorry?
So the design, and we'll continue to have the conversation with staff about the exact design, because fire is a little different than DPW and things like that. But the design includes a change of pavement material. So we're going from like a blacktop to a paver or a stamped concrete.
Right.
It's a color change. It's a grade change, so it'll be a rollover curb. So it will look much more like a sidewalk.
So, okay, so I can, if I'm in a car and I drive toward your property on Oak and I turn left on, I guess it's maybe Lyons, I can go out and turn right onto Ridge.
There will not be a physical barrier preventing you from doing that, because emergency services plans to do that. They would pull in the wrong way on the one-way,
Okay,
stop traffic, do what they need to do, go straight out onto Ridge and make a right, and they're at the hospital in a mile.
right.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah.
talking about someone driving down Oak. They drive, they turn left, and do I have to go through your roundabout and then come back down Oak, or can I think, oh, well, I didn't mean to do this, can I just go on to Ridge?
Technically, that could happen. There'll be a lot of signage that tells them not to do that.
Okay, all right, that answers my question, I was
Yeah.
just curious, so.
No, there'll be a no entry sign, and the one-way signage will be on the pavement and things like that.
And if I'm a pedestrian and I'm walking down Ridge, on the south side of Ridge, or I guess the east side of Ridge, heading south, and I want to walk, can I walk on?
You can, not only
There?
can you, it was actually part of the intent
Okay,
to connect that sidewalk system over to Oak.
okay. Okay,
Because a lot of people use that right now. They cut through the parking lot, they cut across the field, and
okay.
we felt having a safe, directional access was a smart idea.
Okay. But you're still working through the city on what that connection is to Ridge for vehicle?
Yeah, well,
Right.
we had proposed something that was approved, but at Dapper, there's some new staff that's reviewing this from the original, and there were some questions about bollards and things like that, then, fire said, no, we can't have bollards.
Oh, they got to
So,
drive around it. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions from commission? All right, thank you. With that, we will take questions from members of the public. I see we have a new member of the public in the back there. Do you plan on speaking tonight? Okay, thank you. Well, with no questions from the public, we will give members of the public a chance to provide comment. Hearing none. With that, the public testimony for the case is now closed. At this time, do any of the members of the commission have any questions for city staff? No? Okay. Let's see, I thought I might have one. No. We can give you an opportunity to provide a closing statement if you'd like. Please.
Actually, our only closing statement is to ask that the Plan Commission adopt the findings, because we're addressing, ultimately, you're going to be asked to address the standards under special use and plan development. Since this project is either the equal or lesser of what was originally approved or recommended for approval by the Plan Commission, we would ask that you adopt the findings as to the standards that was adopted when this was first heard and recommended for approval by the Plan Commission. If anything else, as I said, as Michael explained, we're equal or less on all of the categories, or actually more. We have a few more parking spaces. We have a shorter building. The program is fairly similar, other than reducing the memory care assisted living. All the other issues have been worked out, so that's actually our closing statement.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right. Deliberation. Should we, do we have any comments from the commission? Or should we move directly to reviewing the standards? All right, let's move on to the standards. All right, so Megan, would you like to walk us through?
Sure. The first set of standards we will go through are the standards for special use for a plan development. Those standards are: it is one of the special uses specifically listed in the zoning ordinance. It is in keeping with purposes and policies of the adopted comprehensive general plan and zoning ordinance as amended from time to time. It will not cause a negative cumulative effect when its effect is considered in conjunction with the cumulative effect of various special uses of all types on the immediate neighborhood and the effect of the proposal type of special use upon the city as a whole. It does not interfere with or diminish the value of property in the neighborhood. It can be adequately served by public facilities and services. It does not cause undue traffic congestion. It preserves significant historical and architectural resources. It preserves significant natural and environmental features. And it complies with all other applicable regulations of the district in which it is located and other applicable ordinances, except to the extent such regulations have been modified through the plan development process or the grant of a variation.
Okay, do any members of the commission have any comments with respect to those standards? I mean, I would say that given the changes being proposed, it would seem to me that each one of these standards has either been satisfied or in some cases are not applicable. No, agreed. Okay, can we move on to the next standards?
Right, next we have the standard for plan development. So as a special use, plan development involves such special considerations of the public interest that it shall be required to adhere to the specific plan development standards established in the zoning district in which it is located. Compliance with the standards shall govern the recommendations of the Plan Commission applicable to a plan development and the action of the City Council in order to ensure that an approved plan development is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the zoning ordinance. The Plan Commission shall not recommend approval of, nor shall the City Council approve, a plan development unless each shall determine, based on written findings of fact, that the plan development satisfy the specific standards established in the zoning district in which the plan development is located.
Well, I'd say that my take is that considering this is already in planned development and the changes we're looking at they're less outside the bounds of what the normal zoning or what the zoning ordinance would otherwise provide for in a D4 district, that the standards are satisfied. Does anyone have a contrary opinion or have anything to add? Okay, let's move on.
Okay, the next set of standards are specific to plan developments within the D4 district. That's section 611.110A, general conditions. Those are, each plan development shall be compatible with surrounding development and not be of such a nature in height, bulk, or scale as to exercise any influence contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance as set forth in section 612, purpose and intent of this title. Each plan development shall enhance the identity and character of the downtown by preserving, where possible, character-giving character-giving buildings, enhancing existing streetscape amenities, maintaining retail continuity in areas where it is prominent, strengthening pedestrian orientation and scale, and contributing to the mixed-use vitality of the area. Each planned development shall be compatible with and implement the adopted comprehensive general plan as amended, the plan for downtown Evanston, any adopted land use or urban design plan specific to the area, this zoning ordinance, and any other pertinent city planning and development policies, and all landscaping and streetscape treatment within the planned development shall be provided in accordance with the requirements set forth in Chapter 17, landscaping and screening of this title, and shown on the required landscape plan submitted as part of the planned development application.
Any comments from commission with respect to those standards? Again, I'm sorry, Goddard? No. Again, I would say that it appears that given that this is already a planned development and the changes being proposed, that all of these standards have been satisfied. I believe there's one
Yes.
last.
One
Set of
last set,
standards?
that is Section B of 611-110. That includes walkways developed for planned development shall form a logical, safe, and convenient system for pedestrian access to all project facilities, as well as any off-site destination likely to attract substantial pedestrian traffic. Pedestrian ways shall not be used by other automotive traffic. The location, construction, and operation of parking, loading areas, and service areas shall be designed to avoid adverse effects on residential uses within or adjoining the development, and, where possible, provide additional parking beyond that required for the planned development to service the downtown district in which it is located. The principal vehicular access points shall be designed to permit smooth traffic flow with controlled turning movements and minimum hazards to vehicular and pedestrian traffic. The planned development shall provide, if possible, for underground installation of utilities, including electricity and telephone, both in public ways and private extensions thereof. Provision shall be made for acceptable design and construction of stormwater control facilities, including grading, gutter, piping, and treatment of turf and maintenance of facilities. For every planned development, there should be provided a market feasibility statement that shall indicate the consumer market areas for all uses proposed in the development, the population potential of the area or areas to be served by the uses proposed, and other pertinent information concerning the need or demand for such uses of land. And for every planned development, there should be provided a traffic circulation impact study which shall show the effect of all proposed uses upon adjacent and nearby roads and highways. The study shall also show the amount and direction of anticipated traffic flow and clearly describe what road and traffic control.
All right, with respect to these standards, some of them, again, are not really applicable given that we're looking at a modification to an existing planned development. And in fact, it appears that we received testimony today that the loading berths were moved to an area farther away from the pedestrian and other vehicular traffic. It seems to me that the petitioner has satisfied these standards as well. Do I have any other comments from the commission? Okay. With that, does anyone have any other comments or have anything they want to say with respect to this case? All right, I think this is when I ask for a motion then.
I move approval to the major adjustment to a planned development at 1815 Oak Avenue.
Goddard has presented a motion. Do I have a second? Sloss seconds. Since we're making a recommendation to the City Council, we will take a roll call vote.
All right. Commissioner Goddard,
Aye.
Commissioner Halleck, Commissioner Picozzi, Commissioner Sloss, and Chair Isaac.
Yes.
That is approved unanimously.
Okay. Well, with that, Do we have any other, that case is now closed. Do we have any other business for the Plan Commission? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Pigosi, a second? Second. Goddard seconds. All in favor? Aye. All against? All right. We are finished. Thank you.